Welcome back to the show where we run you through all the Dolphins news you need to know about. After running through the news you need to know about, we run you through the fan Q&A where we answer Dolphins fans' questions. And it has been a red hot start to training camp this year, and probably the hottest start that I have covered since I've been doing this channel, and it's been 4 years since I think I've been 3 or 4 years since I've been doing this podcast. It's by far the best start that I've seen. And I think what makes this different than most years, and all of the years really, is that this is a young team with a lot of young talent that's up and coming and developing in the right direction, and fixing a lot of their weaknesses. In the past, a lot of the stars on the team were older. A lot of them, especially the last 10 years, are guys that either we didn't draft, we signed, or traded for, or they were just older, like Cameron Wake, Brandon Marshall, Reggie Bush. Like, some of these guys are the biggest names. Mike Wallace. This Ndamukong Suh. Like, these were guys that we were excited to see going into the season, and obviously those things didn't work out. This time around, we're coming off a 10-win year, and everybody on the team is young. And we drafted them, and they're heading in the right direction. And they're on fire right now, And a lot of the roster moves that this team made and sacrificed the entire season for are paying off, which is awesome. And I haven't been this excited for a team, like I said, since I've been covering it. I mean, the depth of the team is showing out. Like I said, the young talent is showing out. Everything about this team is awesome. And I'm excited for the season. So let's get into the news you need to know about. I don't know if we talked about this on last week's episode. I don't think we did, so I'm just going to run through this very quickly in case I did. This comes from Pro Football Rumors. Dolphins have signed their third-round pick tight end, Hunter Long. So they signed him to a 4-year deal. He was the 81st pick out of Boston College. He was an absolute monster at Boston College. I think, he had more catches than Kyle Pitts did. And he is a very talented player, I think, and has a bright future in this league. He reminds me a lot of... his game is like Mark Bavaro, a little bit of Jeremy Shockey. He reminds me most of Jason Witten. The way he plays the game, that's the way. He's not someone who's gonna... He's a possession tight end who knows how to use his body. A big-time red zone threat, I think he can be. A third down chain mover. Very similar to Jason Witten. He's not a burner. He's not the best athlete in the world, but he's a really good blocker. He's just an old-school great tight end. Like, if this guy was in any other era, he would have been valued more than someone like a Kyle Pitts, who's probably would have played receiver back then. Hunter Long is more of a traditional great tight end. And that's what I love about him. And that's something this team has been missing. A tight end who can do both well. Shaheen could do that. But I don't think he's as polished as of a receiver as Hunter Long is. And I think he brings an element to the offense that we did not have. And it allows you to be more versatile and be more deceptive in your packages too, because he can stay on the field for all 3 downs. And if it's a third down and short, you could, with him in there, it's not really a tell, because you can't be, okay, if it's Mike Gesicki in there, it's like, well, they're probably not going to run, and even if they do, we're not scared of it. With Hunter Long, you kind of have to respect both the run and pass if he's in there. So he allows us to do a lot of different things, and I think he's going to be a Dolphin for a very long time, a very successful one. So I'm very, very excited about Hunter Long. This next news story comes from Pro Football Rumors. Dolphins have signed their second-round pick, Liam Eichenberg. Obviously, he was the 42nd overall pick out of Notre Dame. Very excited about his future with the team and what position he's going to play. Obviously, the offensive line is stacked up and down. There's a lot of depth there. People forget Jesse Davis. Michael Dieter, who got better last year. Robert Hunt, Austin Jackson. There's a lot of good players, and it's going to be interesting to see where all the pieces fall. Skura in free agency. We'll see if he's going to be moved in. A lot of analysts think he's better inside than out. We'll see about that. I like Eichenberg as a tackle. I think he can be a good one. And he's going to help us in the run game, too. I think he brings a little bit more physicality to this offensive line that it didn't have before. And plus, Notre Dame offensive linemen there's a lot of good luck there. There's a lot of good faith there. So that's a +2. And he played a long time in college, so it's not like this guy is, he's got a lot of football experience, which is a good thing. And he plays a position where you would want that to be a thing. So I'm very excited about his future with the team. Great draft. Really, really, very, very, everything about this team I'm excited about. This next news story, another small one, comes from Pro Football Rumors. Dolphins' Benardrick McKinney reworks his contract. Benardrick McKinney has agreed to revise his existing contract. The veteran linebacker is now on course for free agency this spring of the 2022 rather than 2024. He was originally set to make $25 million over the next 3 years, including a $7 million salary in 2021. Now he'll make $3 million this year plus $200K in playtime incentives. Interesting. So they shortened the deal to make it, I guess, a little bit cheaper. And their commitment to him is not as long, obviously, which is interesting because maybe he looks at it as he can get paid a little bit faster and probably a little bit more on his side of things. And to the Dolphins side of things, I guess they just kind of cover their bases here. Shortening the deal and opening up some cap space too, which is nice. So the thing about McKinney though is I really like him, and this kind of can backfire on this team a little bit because they have so many guys that are coming up that they need to pay and make a decision about. We didn't even talk about Albert Wilson, who's balling out in training camp. Will Fuller's on a 1-year deal. McKinney, I really like him as a player, and I think he's a great scheme fit. They got to kind of be careful with some of this stuff because this could come back and bite them. Even though this does help, and in the long run, we'll see what happens. But I like McKinney a lot, so I don't expect him to play bad. And if he plays really well, it's going to be tough to let that guy go. He's so versatile, can do so many things on your defense. I think he makes the defense. He's also a great pass rusher. He's a very good player. So we'll see how this ends up shaking out. But like I said, the Dolphins have a lot of guys that are coming in that 2022 season that need to be paid. And I guess they would be okay with letting some of these receivers go. But McKinney's one of those guys that I could totally see earning a big contract very soon. So it's an interesting move by them. We'll see how things work out. This could be a good thing. I hope ends up being a bad thing because I want him to play well. I don't know. We'll see. I like McKinney a lot though. He's going to be a very good Dolphin. Obviously the Waddle stuff with his ankle, it seems to be doing better, which is good. He's out there catching touchdowns now, which is great. He's also the highest drafted receiver in team history, which I did not know. I think Devontae Parker is second in that, and I could be wrong. Just a little fact for you guys. This is another new small one. This comes from Pro Football. A lot of news today. This comes from Pro Football Rumors. Dolphins placed guard DJ Fluker on IR. Signed to be a veteran presence on the Dolphins' offensive line, DJ Fluker will not play for the team this season. The Dolphins placed the experienced guard on IR Thursday, actually. This is kind of a big deal, I guess. I mean, there is a lot of veteran leadership there already with obviously Jesse there. And Dieter and Skura, all of those guys have gotten their share of NFL experience at this point. So I don't think it's a huge blow to the team. Even though he adds a lot of depth, I like DJ Fluker. He's kind of a journeyman, but he's a good journeyman, and he's a good guy to have on your team, whether he's on the bench or even if you've got to play him. He's not bad. So it is kind of sucks. It kind of sucks, but I don't know. Unfortunate. But I think the team will be okay. They have a lot of depth there. And that's it for the small stuff, I believe. Like I said, that Jalen's ankle looks to be fine. I know a lot of people were worried about that. That's one of the news stories here. Really, it's just saying is that he's been practicing and he's doing better. Okay, yeah. So let's get to the big stuff. The Dolphins, obviously, if you this is an obvious one, and it's something we've been talking about the last few weeks. So let's start with this, get this out of the way. Xavien Howard requested a trade, I think, over this past weekend. Obviously, I mean, we could read it, I guess. I mean, he just said he's not happy with his deal. That's basically it. And that's all. He says he's given everything for the fans and to the team, just to kind of sum it up. I think one of the things that is underrated about this whole thing is, and let's actually get into that because I do want to make this point. Xavien Howard recently just did a press conference during training camp, and he says, this is his quote, X said, "I hope it gets better. It's up to the Dolphins." Brian Flores also said, regarding Xavien Howard, that they're going to try to work something out. And the feeling around the building, at least some of the reports from Bleacher Report, has been, if you've been keeping up with that stuff, is that they believe that they can still keep him. There have been reports that, multiple teams have called, no duh. But the sense that I'm getting and watching all these press conferences out of training camp with all the players and the coaches is that they actually do believe that they can keep him on the team. Like, everybody, and you can tell Brian kind of spearheaded this movement where everybody said that, X is a big deal. Obviously, we support X and, and whatever he does. And I think all of that stuff is going to go a long way. I think the Dolphins have handled it very professionally. Brian has mentioned that he's been talking to X and his team, so that's a good thing. So I think there is more of a effort to keep him than there was for Minka, which is a good thing. I don't think this is something that's unfixable. Minka had something with Brian. I think Brian has gotten even better as a coach since then, and so I think there's a chance that he stays, which is a good thing. So despite it being kind of a negative, from what, the feeling that I'm getting from the whole situation is, and, watching all the press conferences, and I'm sure you guys have too, that I think there's a good chance that he stays, which is good. And I like that Brian's trying to keep him. And you could tell, and, people always say that you can tell when your coach is great is when your players start repeating the stuff that you say, because that means they're actually listening. And you can tell that Brian, like I said, told everybody, hey, we support X, we want to keep him here, and you can tell that kind of trickled down to the rest of the team. Even with Byron, who said that X is better than him. I think they've done a great job of being like, hey, X, we love you, like, we want you to stay, and which is a good thing. And I like that they're at least trying, like I said, and they're not just cutting bait and running. And they're like, giving X a big middle finger and be like, yeah, you want to pout and all this, get out of here. Kind of like they did with Minka. At least they're trying to keep him, which is a good thing. Okay, so let's get into some of this other stuff. This is the biggest news story of the day, and I want to talk about Tua. Tua's gotten a lot of hate, and this comes from every publication you can think of: Bleacher Report, ESPN, Bleacher. We already just said Bleacher Report, Miami Herald, Sunset Post. Anything you can think of. If you've been on Twitter, on Dolphins Twitter, you can see all of the highlights of it. He's off to a really hot start, and Omar Kelly said something very interesting, where he said, he hasn't seen this many big plays in a long time. I think he said in a long time, or since he's been covering the team. And he asked Brian in the press conference, is that a concern? To me, it's not a concern. They should be doing that without pads. It's a lot harder to play defense when nobody's coming at. I mean, it's all kind of, you can't hit the quarterback. It's all kind of loose. It really is just kind of a flag football game, a 7-on-7 drill. I think it's good for both sides. A lot of these young DBs need this to deal with probably a top 3 fast team in the league. I mean, the guys that they're going against, that's as fast as it's going to get in the NFL. So that's good for them. It's good for Tua, who keeps stretching the field. I mean, if you've looked at some of these... By the way, shout out to the Dolphins for actually... Number one, the facility looks great. Number two, usually in the offseason, we don't get any footage from this team. And it's nice to get all of these clips, and you can tell there's kind of an effort like, hey, Tua's doing really well. And they kind of want... do as much as they can for the fans to kind of understand that, and he has been. I don't even think it's propaganda. He's been doing a great job, and some of his toughest critics are even kind of excited about some of the stuff that they've seen from training camp. So the biggest news of the day is Tua's off to a great start, and the offense is too. I mean, we gotta, if you've been watching and reading, you saw some of the big catches Albert Wilson caught. some of the big catches even Adam Shaheen was getting in on. He caught a touchdown and a deep bomb on Eric Rowe. The entire offense, Jalen Waddle caught, I think, 2 touchdowns. I know he had one big catch, and I know he had a touchdown that was closer to the goal line. So he's gone off to a great start. The offense is off to a fantastic start. And the thing that I want to really kind of point out, I think the biggest point of all, is the coaching job that this staff has done to get Tua right is fantastic. Not only adding all of these weapons around him to make him better, but focusing on his biggest weakness, which was being aggressive and pushing the ball down the field, getting more comfortable with that, I think is a fantastic job. A lot of the things that we have seen with the past, let's take Tannehill for an example, with a young quarterback, they kind of just hid his shortcomings, and Tannehill kind of had to figure it out by himself. Coaching really didn't fix him. Instead of fixing the problems, they kind of just dealt with the problems. This coaching staff develops you into a better player. That's the biggest difference between this regime and others, is they really do a great job of developing talent. And they've dedicated an entire off-season so far to fixing that problem with Tua, getting more comfortable, getting him to be more aggressive and push the ball down the field. And I love that that's the philosophy, not only from Brian, but from the George Godsey and Studsville, to really kind of push that agenda and make him better. And I think that's the biggest thing I've taken away so far, is Tua's improvement and his development, and what the coaching staff has really invested in to make him better and make the biggest weakness of his game a strength. And that's something that we have not seen in previous regimes. Like I said, Tannehill's the best example of that. It should not have taken 7 years for Tannehill to kind of finally, and not only that, but the teams weren't that great, but he never really developed into the quarterback that he is for a long time. Like, it took a while. And a lot of that had to do with, obviously, the crappy organizations. And, Omar Kelly has said it multiple times. Dave Hyatt has said it multiple times. People have covered the Dolphins for a long time. Is that the thing that they really like about what Brian has brought is his development of players has been really, really good. And you can tell that with Tua so far. And that gets me really excited. I don't want to keep repeating myself, but that's the biggest takeaway. Not even the fact that Albert has come back and has looked great, which is great. Everything that we've heard from not only just beat writers, but NFL Network guys who have watched some of these practices have been blown away by some of the stuff that our receivers have been able to do, which is great news for Tua. But the thing that I'm really excited about is Tua and his hot start so far. I can't wait for the pads to come on. Some of the practices we're going to have against Chicago in preseason, that's going to be the real test. But so far, so good. And this is the hottest start a quarterback has had since I've covered the team. By far. Like, it's not even close. So, and this is the hottest start an offense has had since I've been covering the team. And especially the passing game. And you can really tell by watching them in training camp. And even in some of these clips, it's like, these receivers are real. And some of these throws have been, pretty nice from Tua. So, again, the biggest thing that I've taken away from training camp so far has been Tua and a lot of the things that I've mentioned so far. Just everything that we've heard so far from training camp has just made me feel really, really, really good. And I definitely want to know what you guys think about some of the stuff that has happened so far. I just very excited about Tua's development. I cannot wait for this season to start. It's made me, like, just watching and reading it all, it's made me more, well, not only positive on the team, but, like, Tua, it just, I don't know. My thoughts about Tua have went up a little bit. Like, especially how last year ended. Not saying it was all his fault, because I think he gets way too much hate, but it definitely it makes you feel good as a fan, and like, no, I need to drop that. Sorry, everybody. It's all good. We're good. What was I gonna say? What was I saying? It distracted the heck out of me. It's just good to know. It's reassuring to know that he's getting better, and he looks better. He looks bigger. And I should stop talking about Tua. I could talk about Tua for an hour, but it's just reassuring to know that he's getting better, and it makes me even more excited for the season, because he really is the missing. I know a lot of people bring up the offensive line, but to me, he is the missing piece to the puzzle. I think if he works out, this team's going to go wherever it's going to reach as far as it can go if he's playing well, which is great. And even if X leaves, I still feel like this is a playoff team without him, and it just comes down to Tua, and it's so far so good. So let's get into the fan Q&A. That huge loud noise really distracted me. Sorry about that, and sorry about the fan again, guys. It is what it is. This first question comes from Adrian. So let's get into, I don't know if I said this, but let's get into the fan case. First question comes from Adrian. He says, "Hi, Skaggs. You've probably mentioned this at some point prior. Would you, however, elaborate as to why/where/when you became a Dolphins fan? Can you tell us about what work/career you have done in the past? Anything interesting about yourself, hobbies, interests, family? It would be cool to hear." I mean, that's a lot. Okay, what is the first question? How I became... It really just came about in the family. My family isn't... They're not... There's really only two fans of hardcore fans of football in my family. And there's been some, fair weather people. My family, on my mom's side, is from Florida. And I think that's where this fandom comes from. And my uncle is not really adult. He watched as a kid. He kind of grew out of it as he got older. But he is, I guess, still kind of a Dolphins fan. Not like me, where, I'm obsessed over this kind of stuff. And but that's kind of where it just came from family, basically. And, yeah, that's it. And as for other stuff, yeah, it is what it is. I know people want to know more about, we'll get into that down the line. I know people, I guess, are interested in that kind of stuff, but it's not really that important. It's very vanilla, nothing too stuff that you guys don't, that everybody else doesn't do, I guess. In terms of interests and hobbies, and all that stuff, I don't know. I've been wanting to do more stuff, and I really do want to do more stuff. I gotta move on, because this is not a good question to start the fan Q&A off of. I'm sure so many people have tuned out. I'll move on. That basically sums it up. That's how I became a Dolphins fan, through family. This next question comes from Beef. I'll answer the rest of that question at the end of this podcast, but we got to get into some Dolphin stuff. This question comes from Beef. He says, "Hey, Skaggs, ever since Brian," and it's a good question, Adrian, "Flores has taken over, I believe he has done a great job." And this question comes from Beef. He says, "Hey, Skaggs, ever since Brian Flores has taken over, I believe he has done a great job. However, everyone is wondering, how soon are we going to win the Super Bowl? It goes to show you that rebuilding is definitely not as easy as it looks, or it shows how heavily flawed the Dolphins have been, and not just the coaches or the players. I hope we can keep Brian long enough, because I don't think there's anyone that can easily replace him, or the progress that he's made. So my question is do you think Brian Flores will be here a long time, or long enough to win a Super Bowl? It's very scary and aggravating to think he won't be here long enough for us to win a Super Bowl. In my bold opinion, the soonest we can win the Super Bowl with him is in 2024. And another follow-up question is, do you think we will be much better this coming season than last season? Hopefully we are. We're going to be way better than last year. Way better than last year. The defense is better. The offense is better. We're going to be better. Even if X leaves, I think we're going to be better than we were a year ago. We're more of a complete team, not to mention the fact our special teams is still out of this world good. We added Polardi. Obviously, we had a first-team All-Pro kicker. We have great gunners. Everything about the team is great. The special teams is great. The offense has looked great so far. I'm not going to call it great yet, because I need to see it in a game. But so far, the offense, and not only the personnel, but what they've been doing in training camp, has been way better. Defensively, we looked great last year. We were top 5 in scoring for most of the year. We were first in the NFL in turnovers. We were top 3 third down defense. We were a fantastic defense, and we got better this year. Now, if X leaves, I still think the defense is better. He's got more depth. I think the younger guys are better. We added a lot of really nice players to it. We added some veteran players to it. And it's weird because I remember when Kyle Van Noy left, I was like, whoa, like, oh my God. Now that, after the draft and free agency, like, it's like, dang, man, they've done a fantastic job of, like, making it better, which they didn't really need to do, but they did, obviously, which is a good thing. They weren't, strengthening our strength, I guess. But, yeah, the team's going to be way better than it was a year ago. Like I said, the offense is better, the defense is better. And in terms of Brian and his stability, he's going to be just fine. He'll be just fine. I even think if Tua fails, which I don't think he is, especially after some of the things that we've seen so far, even if he fails, I think Brian will still get another chance to work it out with another quarterback, whoever that is. This next question comes from Beef again. He says, with Xavien in the news requesting a trade, if not demanding for a trade, do you think it's time for the Dolphins to move on from him? We can't make X happier, and players that are miserable don't perform well. Flores is managing the team well. So do you think it's best to trade X and keep rebuilding? I don't think it's best to trade X, to answer your question, Beef. I like the approach that they're taking. I like that they're going to do everything that they can to keep him. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, which is a great approach to have. Like, it's not, I just love the way they're handling it. And it's funny, because it's like when you get mad, but you can't stay mad for too long. Because you love the people that you're around. Like, you can get mad and then you kind of get around it again and you're like, I don't even, like, you just kind of get back into the flow of things. And I think that's what's happening right now, which is funny. But it's good that the Dolphins aren't, throwing stones at X. It's like they're trying to get him back. So I love the way that they're handling it. At the end of the day, if he has to be traded and they can't find, at least they tried, I think is the best way I can answer that question. This next question comes from Toon. He says, if X gets traded, will the Dolphins get a first-round pick out of it? Absolutely. Not even, especially since there's going to be a bidding war for him and his services. This next question comes from Beef. He says, hey, Skaggs, I know it's been a while since I posted a question here. If X is really requesting a trade, should we get some first-round or second-round pick or stop stocking draft picks and get a really good player? If so, which team should we trade for and exchange with? I have a feeling we might get a really good draft pick in exchange for X. I think they should get a player, not a pick, in my opinion. Whoever that is, I don't know. Dallas has been brought up a lot. There's not a lot they can give us, though, so I don't know what the heck, like, in terms of players. I'm trying to think of any. Zeke, but he's older. There's not really anybody on defense that you want. Offensively, maybe you get Zach Martin. Zach Martin would be the best outcome if they could somehow get him, which probably won't happen. Even though, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe Jerry Jones is dumb enough to do it, but I don't know. I would rather get a player, though. This next question comes from Mark. He says, are you pro trading Howard? No. I'm not. I think I hopefully they can figure it out. This next question comes from Richard. He says, sorry. This question comes from Richard. He says, what Michael Dieter at center? I want Michael, I think that's what he meant. And Liam Eichenberg at right tackle with DJ Fluker out for the season. So you want Dieter at center and then Eichenberg at tackle. Who knows? It's not a bad idea. That's for sure. This question comes from Ahmed. He says, why do you not predict records? This team has been either hot trash or a letdown every single year that you've hosted the show and not predicted. Give us a team record prediction. You never know. It might actually be a good thing. LOL. I don't know, man. I just don't do it. Very superstitious about that stuff. I just am. It just is what it is. I'm not going to do it now. I'm not going to do it. It is what it is. This next question comes from Bama Hammer. He says, Ahmed said this question came from Bama Hammer. He says, Bama Hammer recently said, I don't know who that is. He said, recently said, with players getting open quickly and Tua's quick release, the Dolphins just need average line play to succeed on offense. Do you think average line play will get this team to the playoffs? Plus, the line is so unproven. What indication is there that it will even be average? High drafted talent doesn't always mean a successful, cohesive unit. At least It didn't last year. This year, there's a new center, rookie right tackle, and lack of depth with Fluker on IR. I disagree with you. I mean, dude, let's think about this for a second. So let's think about the starting offensive line for this team. By the way, it is a fantastic question, Ahmed. There's so many things I want to get into, like what you said about Tua and the average line, and Tua getting out quick. So let's start with the offensive line, though. So if you look at the offensive line, let's just say these are the starting five. Tackle Jesse Davis, tackle Austin Jackson, wherever you want to put him. Guards, Kinley, Hunt. Center, we'll say Dieter. That leaves out Skura and Eichenberg. And who else am I forgetting? I'm forgetting some other people, too. Who can flex and play. And if you want to play Davis on the bench, because he is versatile, you could do that, too. So they still have depth in the offensive line. They have a lot of depth on the offensive line. There's going to be a battle to see who gets these starting spots, because there are so many good players. I mean, they drafted Coleman, and I know he was a later pick, but a lot of people like him too. There's a lot of depth on this offensive line, so at least I think so. And I know they're younger, some of the guys at least. But a lot of them played well last year and are young, and they got better as the year went on. Kinley kind of got worse as the year went on, in a weird way. Dieter came in and played a little bit better than him when he had the foot injury. So we'll see how things shake out. There is a lot of depth there, in my opinion. It's going to still be a kind of crazy battle to see who gets the starting five. But we'll see. I still think you're okay, though, on the depth thing. I think there's enough depth there. And, yeah, I mean, the line was really good at pass blocking last year. For the most of the year, and especially when Fitz was in. Tua obviously held the ball a little bit longer. It was a little bit indecisive at times, and he was learning the game. The game wasn't coming to him as fast as it was as someone like Fitzpatrick, and a lot of those sacks he took were on him. Especially in the Denver game, a lot of those sacks were, and some of them weren't, but a good amount of them were him not understanding blitz pickups and stuff of that nature, and his tendency to hold on to the football when he doesn't know what he's looking at. And that's just a rookie quarterback. It's every rookie quarterback. You play the game a little bit slower, and especially with someone like a veteran. So the offensive line was actually it was pretty good at pass blocking last year. The issue was obviously the run blocking. And can they be a more balanced offense? They got way better at it as the year went on. And I think they got better as a unit in terms of some of the personnel moves that they made to make that side of the football better in terms of the run game. I love the scheme they're going to run. If this is true, and all the rumors are true, that they're going to install a Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan type of a run game, and use some of the same plays that they do, that's going to help it too. So I think all of those things, with another year under their belt, with a lot of these young players, all of those things point to good things that are going to come from the offensive line. So, and it's not like these young guys played bad. Like, if you want to see a bad young offensive lineman, go watch Billy Turner and Dallas Thomas, and even some of the Juwan James stuff early on. It wasn't great, and even Laramie for the when he was at tackle, he wasn't, for some of those games, he wasn't that good. Obviously, they moved him inside to guard, and Brandon Albert started at tackle. So they did a pretty good job for younger players. So I think all of those things point and give me confidence in the offensive line. This next question comes from KC. This last question comes from KC. He says, I need clarification on Kristen Wilkins. Some sports writers have him in the upper portion of the league in value, but other sports writers act like you couldn't even get a 4th or 5th round pick for him, which is true. Oh, man. Well, so far, apparently he's been killing it in camp. I don't know. Christian Wilkins is a really good player. And, I don't know. I think you could definitely get a 2nd round pick for him. I don't think you can get a 1st round pick for him. But a young defensive lineman, interior lineman like that is a great locker room guy, great leader, really good player. He's not great, but he's really good. I think he's definitely above average. So yeah, I think you could definitely get a high value pick for him, like a third or a second for sure. I think he still has he still hasn't hit his ceiling yet, which is a good thing. And you can see flashes of it, and it's good that he's started off camp well. And again, this is before pads, and some of the scrimmage stuff, but at least he's been popping so far, and he's playing with a better. You gotta remember, I mean, his first 2 years in the league, 2019 that D line was trash. 2020 the defense was is way better, but a lot of it came from coaching. That front seven there was no special on it. There wasn't any special players. Agba was really, really good, but our rush 4 stuff was terrible, and the only time we could really get consistent pressure was with blitz packages. This year, we've added so many good front 7 players that our pass rush is going to be significantly better than it was a year ago, and really open up stuff for Wilkins. So I think we got to kind of keep that in mind too. So him playing on I think a great D-line this year. We'll see what he can give us. I think he can give us a lot and it's good for this offensive line too. This defensive line is so athletic and insane. I mean, Benardrick McKinney is basically unblockable. Whether he's rushing the passer or getting off run blocks, like he's basically unblockable. And there's a lot of those guys. I mean, Jalen Phillips is the same way. Ogba's really, really good in that department too. Like and obviously Wilkins. Steelers are great pass rusher. Van Ginkel's getting better. He's really good in the run game. So, I think all of those things are going to lead for Wilkins having a pretty big year. This is the best defense he's played on. So, and it's going into his 3rd year. So we'll really see what we have in him. But I think, like I said, I don't think he's hit his ceiling yet. So that is it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys enjoyed. I got to figure out something in terms of a schedule. To be more consistent. I hate to see it. I have been consistent, but it's been obviously once a week. I have to find other things to do on this channel. I just, I don't want to be redundant and repetitive. Hopefully we can figure something out soon. I want to figure out something before. I know I keep saying this, but I do want to figure out something before the end of the season, and really just switch it up and try to, make it better. And hopefully we can find some way to do that this year. But that is it, ladies and gentlemen. Very excited about this season. We're all gonna have, at the end of the day, it's gonna be a great year, and for football and for Dolphins football especially. So very excited about that, and I will see you guys in the next one.